In his airy Rosarito studio, border artist Hugo Crosthwaite spent months meticulously drawing and photographing, composing a narrative portrait of Dr. Anthony Fauci as he went. The finished work is a 5-minute stop-motion animation film. It's more than just a portrait of Fauci. The animation gave Crosthwaite a chance to tell a bigger story.
To me, doing that portrait had this opportunity not just to do the portrait of a man, but do a portrait of this particular moment that we're living in, this pandemic.
The work is an extraordinary look at someone who has been the face of science in America during the pandemic. The animation is intricately, stunningly rendered, and powerful to watch. The film opens with gloomy, suspenseful music and a drawing of Fauci, pensive at the height of the COVID pandemic. His career is bookended by crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic today and the HIV/AIDS epidemic in the 80s. Crosthwaite shows a stark contrast in attitudes toward public health and science, now and then.
They were fighting for medicines, they were fighting for government involvement in, to save them from, to help them deal with this pathogen. And then with the COVID-19 pandemic, kind of the opposite happened, no? We have a vaccine, we have the medicines, we have the treatment, but then it's a population that rises against those things.
Crosthwaite began drawing as a kid, killing time in his father's curio shop in Rosarito. Then, while people watching along Tijuana's busy streets and plazas, he drew elaborate narratives, whether invented or reflective of a human condition. In Fauci's portrait, the narrative rises from the American response to the pandemic.
In a moment where truth was being denied, and alternative facts were coming up, and he became this personification of science, of real fact, of truth. So then immediately I knew that the narrative that I wanted to tell with this animation would be these two antagonistic forces. No, it would be, science against superstition, truth against lies.
To make a stop-motion video, Crosthwaite does it all by hand. He draws a detail, snaps a picture, draws another detail, and repeats. The effect is full of movement. As figures emerge and wobble with tiny shifts of the camera angle, the animations buzz with life.
It's this process where one detail leads to the next and leads to the next, and then I'm composing narrative, kind of like a writer would or a poet would compose a poem, where you string together words and you're creating a narrative. That's the same process I use with my work, with my drawing.
It ends with a recent likeness of Fauci, but along the way, there are healthcare workers, protesters, sick people connected to ventilators, and someone receiving a vaccine, all elements of Fauci's legacy.
100 years from now, nobody's going to know who Dr. Fauci is. Nobody's going to know who I am. Nobody's, names and places get forgotten. But stories are universal, no? Like we've had the story of science fighting against superstitions since there's been science, no?
Julia Dixon Evans, KPBS News.
It's not about capturing reality or capturing truth. It's just about creating stories.